the growing United States military presence in the Middle East has been accompanied by increasingly direct warnings from President Donald Trump. These warnings are not focused on the recent deadly crackdown by the Iranian government against its own citizens, but rather on Iran's nuclear ambitions. In a series of social media posts, the president stated that a large military force was moving toward Iran and urged its leaders to negotiate a new agreement that would eliminate nuclear weapons. He warned that time was running out. Iran's foreign minister responded by saying that the country's armed forces were fully prepared and ready to respond. Inside Iran, the human cost of recent events is becoming clearer through images and testimonies emerging from the country. Secretly filmed footage from inside a hospital emergency room in Tehran shows scenes of intense grief. A woman can be heard crying out that her brother has been killed. While exact numbers remain unknown, many Iranians who witnessed the violence believe that tens of thousands may have died, with many more seriously injured. Human rights advocates describe the scale of the killings as deeply shocking, not only for Iran but in the context of modern history. Some have said that uncovering the truth and collecting evidence is essential to ensuring accountability for what has taken place. As Washington considers its next move, one of the largest aircraft carriers in the United States Navy, carrying up to 50 fighter jets, has arrived in the region. American military bases across the Middle East have been significantly reinforced. At the same time, President Trump issued a fresh warning, saying that a massive force was heading toward Iran and expressing hope that Iranian leaders would come to the negotiating table quickly. He warned that if they did not, any future attack on Iran would be far more severe than previous actions. Last year, United States bombers joined Israeli strikes on Iran, targeting 3 key locations connected to the country's nuclear program. President Trump has repeatedly stated that Iran must not be allowed to possess nuclear weapons. Iran's mission to the United Nations responded by saying it was open to dialogue, but added that if the country were pushed further, it would respond with unprecedented force. Despite these warnings, officials in Washington believe the Iranian leadership is in a weaker position than it has been in for years. American officials argue that while the recent protests in Iran may have faded from the streets, the underlying anger has not disappeared. They believe unrest is likely to return unless the government makes meaningful changes or steps aside. According to this view, the Iranian leadership has failed to address long-standing grievances over economic hardship, political repression, and lack of basic freedoms. Many believe the Iranian people deserve better and that their demands will resurface in the future. Earlier this month, protests spread across nearly every part of Iran, from the capital Tehran to the holy city of Mashhad and to areas near the Caspian Sea. The response from security forces was harsh and widespread. One woman who witnessed events in her area shared images showing armed security personnel patrolling the streets. She said she was too afraid to film them directly, explaining that some were wearing black masks and carrying automatic weapons. According to her account, gunfire was common, and fear dominated daily life. Today, Iranians are no longer protesting openly. Many say it is simply too dangerous. Instead, anger is growing behind closed doors, within homes and families, as people mourn the dead and demand accountability. Calls for justice are becoming quieter but more intense, as citizens wait to see whether the international community will respond or whether the situation will escalate further. Against this backdrop, attention has shifted to Washington. There appear to be differing messages coming from the Trump administration. Some officials emphasize the need for a strong military presence to defend American forces in the region, particularly against possible attacks on U.S. bases in the Gulf. They argue that maintaining sufficient troops and equipment also allows the United States to take preemptive action if intelligence suggests Iran is preparing to strike first. At the same time, President Trump's own statements suggest a more aggressive approach, with explicit threats of military action if Iran refuses to agree to dismantle its nuclear program. Senior figures within the administration have said they believe Iran's leadership is weaker than ever, economically strained and facing deep internal dissatisfaction. This perception appears to be shaping the president's strategy. President Trump has pointed to what he considers successful military actions in other countries as evidence of strength and resolve. These actions have seemingly emboldened him. However, experts warn that Iran would present a very different challenge. Any attempt to strike Iranian leadership or infrastructure would be far more complex and risky than previous operations. Iran has a large military, regional allies, and the ability to retaliate across the Middle East. As tensions continue to rise, Iran remains on edge. The country is grieving, fearful, and angry. Its leadership is defiant, while its people wait anxiously for answers and justice. The United States, meanwhile, is weighing whether to push for negotiations through pressure or to take more direct action. With military forces positioned and rhetoric escalating, the region now watches closely to see what happens next, knowing that the consequences could be severe and far-reaching.